Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the absolute powerhouse of a product and business strategy behind India's biggest digital payment giant, PhonePe. It's just incredibly fascinating to figure out how a startup goes from absolute zero to basically dominating one of the most complex, high-volume financial ecosystems on the entire planet. So, let's see what we can uncover.
Okay, let's dive right into this staggering number, 50%. I mean, just think about that for a second. Roughly 1 out of every 2 digital UPI transactions in India flows through this single app. We are literally talking about billions of transactions processed every single month. In a market flooded with massive tech titans and government-backed alternatives, grabbing half the pie is an astronomical feat. But how exactly did they engineer this level of dominance?
Well, let's start with part 1, the catalyst, fixing the pre-UPI world.
You know, the world before UPI was incredibly fragmented. You basically had cash, which is obviously physical and slow, or you had these early digital wallets. But those wallets came with massive headaches. Your money was locked in, you faced super high KYC or know your customer friction just to get signed up, and onboarding merchants was a total nightmare. Then the UPI, or Unified Payments Interface, was introduced, and it was a revolutionary shift. Suddenly, payments were bank-to-bank, completely free, instant, and fully interoperable. You didn't even need to load a wallet anymore. Your money just moved straight from your bank to your friend's bank. But while that infrastructure was absolutely brilliant, it was still nascent. It desperately needed a simple user interface, widespread trust, and a real vehicle for mass adoption.
And that right there is exactly where PhonePe entered the picture. They were founded in 2015, and they built their platform directly on top of this brand new UPI infrastructure by partnering up with Yes Bank. But the real game changer? That happened in 2016 when they got acquired by Flipkart. This gave them an insane early advantage, literally instant distribution to millions of Flipkart users. From there, the evolution was rapid. Phase 2 saw this massive explosion of offline merchants from 2018 to 2021, which perfectly set the stage for their current phase of massive ecosystem scale.
Moving on to Section 2, the Distribution Masterclass, or How They Won Offline.
It's actually super interesting to look at the contrast in strategic philosophy here. In early-stage tech markets, the instinct is almost always to go product first, right? Agonizing over flashy app features, gamified UX, and throwing out heavy cashback rewards to lure in users. Well, PhonePe flipped the script. They adopted a distribution-first strategy. Sure, they integrated tightly with Flipkart's checkout for those early digital wins, but their absolute masterstroke was deep rural penetration. They built for Bharat, the real heartland of India, realizing that digital products still require massive physical distribution.
And this led directly to their merchant-first approach. While all their competitors were fighting tooth and nail over consumer attention, PhonePe aggressively targeted the lifeblood of Indian commerce, the local shopkeepers and small kirana stores. They literally handed out free QR codes, made onboarding incredibly easy, and gave them basic business tools. By focusing so intensely on the supply side, they created a 35 million-strong merchant network. Today, that little PhonePe QR code is the default fixture on store counters across the entire country.
But they also backed up that physical distribution with rock-solid infrastructure. As one user noted online, PhonePe payments rarely failed compared to others. Look, in a high-trust products category like payments, a failed transaction isn't just a minor annoyance. It causes immediate user churn. PhonePe recognized very early on that deep bank integrations and sky-high success rates beat temporary cashback rewards every single time. Honestly, trust was their ultimate growth hack. All right, Section 3, the flywheel effect and building a two-sided network moat. So here's the crucial point. It's this classic marketplace loop. It starts with Step 1, onboarding merchants through that super aggressive offline strategy we just talked about. Step 2, because the QR codes are literally everywhere, it organically attracts users who need to pay those merchants. Step 3, this incredible density drives massive daily transaction volumes. And finally, Step 4, those high volumes make the platform entirely indispensable, which easily retains those merchants and attracts even more. By solving supply and demand simultaneously, PhonePe built an incredibly defensive moat that competitors simply couldn't cross.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why they won. Google Pay leaned heavily on a beautiful user experience and gamified rewards, but they really lacked that gritty offline merchant depth. Paytm was pretty stubborn with its wallet-first legacy and initially completely missed the massive shift to pure UPI. Beam, the government app, well, it had the infrastructure but really suffered from poor UX. PhonePe's balanced, dual-sided approach just crushed the specific weak spots of every single major rival.
Which brings us to Section 4, the monetization paradox, the zero-fee reality.
This right here is the multi-billion-dollar riddle. How do you monetize a free product? Because the core reality of the UPI network in India is that it operates on zero MDR. That means there is absolutely no merchant discount rate. The payment processing itself generates exactly zero fees for the apps facilitating it.
To really wrap your head around the scale of this paradox, consider this. PhonePe has captured roughly 50% of the market. They are processing billions of transactions every single month. They are bearing the immense server, infrastructure, and engineering costs to keep this massive digital network running flawlessly. Yet, on the actual transactions that make up that 50% slice, they literally make nothing.
So naturally, they've aggressively pushed into other avenues: insurance, lending, gold, stock trading, hoping to cross-sell to their massive user base. But here is the massive revenue reality shocker. Despite all of those efforts, roughly 95% of their revenue is still deeply tied to the core, free payments ecosystem. Financial services and wealth management only make up a tiny sliver of the pie right now.
And look, this intense pressure to monetize a free product has led to some friction. As another user notes here, the app feels cluttered with ads. To generate revenue, PhonePe has integrated in-app advertising, but this actively degrades the very user experience that helped them win early on. It's a super delicate balancing act between keeping the lights on and keeping your users happy.
Let's look at Section 5, the Super App Horizon, Risks and Future Strategy.
Because PhonePe is definitely facing some serious headwinds right now. First up, there's the regulatory guillotine of an impending 30% UPI market share cap. Regulators want to prevent monopolies, meaning PhonePe might literally be forced to cap its own success. No way around it. Second, there's a fresh wave of hungry competitors like Navi and SuperMoney trying to steal their crown by offering really aggressive credit products. And third, as we just saw, their financial services revenue is still uncomfortably small. So how does this build into their ultimate master plan? Well, the real game isn't just payments anymore. PhonePe is desperately working to transition from a mere payments app into a full-fledged financial super app. Through initiatives like PhonePe Switch, which basically acts as a mini-apps ecosystem, and hyperlocal offline growth strategies, they're trying to increase daily engagement far beyond just simple money transfers as they gear up for an eventual IPO.
When you really step back and look at their whole journey, this is the one key insight you need to remember. PhonePe didn't just build a payment app, it built India's largest offline and online financial network. They proved that in complex emerging markets, deep distribution, massive merchant networks, and relentless technical reliability will consistently win the war over simply having a slightly better UI or bigger funding rounds.
But that leaves us with one massive lingering question. As PhonePe stares down the barrel of a 30% regulatory market share cap, can their new super app ecosystem actually grow fast enough to outrun the limits of their own payment success? It's a completely fascinating business challenge, and honestly, the answer will likely dictate the future of India's entire digital economy. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to keep questioning the strategy behind the apps you use every day.